Thanks everybody for being here. Appreciate you coming out in the warm weather. I think this is an important event. So 1 week ago, I announced that 4,933 Pennsylvania small businesses will share $96 million in state grants to assist with COVID-19 expenses and lost revenues. Today, we're here at one of the businesses that is benefiting from the COVID-19 Business Advantage Grant. It's called the Business Advantage Grant. Like we were talking earlier, like many child care facilities in Pennsylvania, Magical Days Learning Center struggled with losses associated with COVID-19. Most child care facilities in Pennsylvania had to close, actually, during the worst of the pandemic, and many have not fully recovered their clientele because parents, and even here, are still concerned and worried about the safety of their children. They're choosing to keep their children home. So we are going to need, here's the problem, we're going to need more child care facilities like this as people and more people return to work. But I just want to point out, it's not just child care that is benefiting from this. When this pandemic is finally over, we're all going to need stores to shop in. We're all going to need restaurants to go to with our friends. We're all going to need mechanics and barbers and manufacturers and florists. We're going to need fitness instructors and dry cleaners, handymen, and bookkeepers. And whether we're a small business owner, a worker, or a consumer, all of our lives benefit from a thriving business community. But we also benefit by having businesses take precautions to keep their customers, their employees, and themselves safe. Most businesses have actually opened up in some form or another in Pennsylvania. Some are operating at remote spaces, remotely at full capacity. Others have modified their operations to operate at less than full capacity for safety, such as offering limited capacity seating, curbside pickup model, or by appointment only operations. Our Department of Health has been working with the Department of Community and Economic Development, you'll hear from Neil in just a minute, to produce guidance and answer questions that help businesses ramp up operations while protecting the health and safety of their workers and their customers. This round of grants supported businesses in every county in Pennsylvania, a lot of them right here in York County. And 51% of the grants were awarded to historically disadvantaged businesses. And that figure includes Black-owned businesses like the Magical Days Learning Center. The application period for a second round of funding is actually now open. And more information about applying can be found on the Department of Community and Economic Development's website. Neil, you're going to be talking about that. The easiest way to keep up with the deadlines for grant applications, because there are a lot and they keep coming, as well as our response to COVID-19, is to follow what I'm doing, what we're all doing on the pa.gov website. So now, having said that, I'd like to turn things over to Executive Deputy Secretary of Department of Community and Economic Development, Neil Weaver. Neil, thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor, for the opportunity to join you today. At DCED, helping small businesses is part of our fundamental mission. Over the past several months, as the COVID-19 pandemic devastated our communities and our businesses, that mission has become more critical than ever. Pennsylvania's small businesses are the core of our Commonwealth and our economy. They're the storefronts that provide us with the services and products we need. They're the entrepreneurs with the big and the innovative ideas. And, like Magical Days Learning Center, they're the caretakers and providers. And most importantly, they're our friends, families, and neighbors. But over the past 5 months, our small businesses have struggled. Many closed their doors to keep their customers and employees safe. Others who were able to remain open saw only a fraction of foot traffic and sales before the pandemic. Like many of us, they worried about what the future would hold. But despite those worries and struggles, they did their part to protect their communities. We are indebted to them for their sacrifices, and I'm happy to see the first round of funding through the COVID-19 Small Business Assistance Program making its way to those businesses that need it most. Businesses like Magical Days Care Learning Center play a critical role in our communities. Not only do we entrust them with the care of our children, but they also keep Pennsylvania's economy moving forward. The disruption they faced at the hands of the COVID-19 pandemic affected us all. There are so many businesses like Magical Days Learning Center across the Commonwealth, minority-owned and women-owned businesses that provide an invaluable service to us. But the unfortunate reality is that our minority-owned and historically disadvantaged businesses are more vulnerable to disruptions like the one we are experiencing now with the pandemic, because they are often do not have the same access to funding that other businesses have. So through this new program, we took special care to ensure that funding went to our most at-risk businesses first. We worked hand in hand with the CDI-FI network, the General Assembly, and the partners here today to get funding out the door as quickly as possible and to where it was needed most. In this first round of funding, 51% of the awards will go to minority-owned businesses and 68% of those owned by women. When funding is limited and so many are in need of help, collaboration is critical, and our CDFIs work tirelessly to get the word out to eligible applicants. Those incredible efforts have not gone unnoticed or unappreciated. And on behalf of DCED, I want to thank our partners, Jim Burnett, Dan Betancourt, and so many others for their commitment to Pennsylvania's small businesses. This pandemic may be the single greatest challenge that a business owner will face. But with time and strategic investments that we are making today and will continue to make, I have faith that our businesses will reemerge as strong as ever. This does not mark the end of the assistance that we will be providing. We are committed to identifying new ways to help. We are committed to fostering the strong partnerships that are critical, and we are committed to continuing to offer our support. We want to thank Governor Wolf for his continued advocacy on behalf of Pennsylvania businesses. Thanks to the General Assembly for their partnerships, and thanks to our CDFIs, especially Jim and Dan who are with us here today, for your expertise and leadership. It's because of this collaboration with you that this was possible. And most of all, we want to thank Adrian and Veronica for continuing to operate Magical Days Learning Center amidst all of the uncertainty that looms over small businesses like yours. I'll now turn over the podium to Dan Betancourt, President and CEO of Community First Fund. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Dan Betancourt, President of Community First, but I'm also chair of the PA CDFI Coalition, a group of 17 community development lending institutions. Adrian, and Veronica are clients of ours, so it's coincidental that we're here today to award that grant to you on behalf of the governor. So on behalf of the network, let me just share a couple thoughts with you today. We came together with DCED Secretary Davin and Executive Secretary Neil Weaver to put a program together to help businesses that were struggling to survive because of the pandemic. We're deeply grateful to the governor, Governor Wolf, who put this in the budget so that we, and working with the PA legislature, so that we can quickly get resources to businesses like Adrienne and Veronica, to get resources in the hands of those impacted by the crisis. This program was created because we were aware that early stimulus dollars through the SBA were not reaching small businesses across the Commonwealth. So we worked with the legislature and the governor to make sure that we can get federal dollars down to the local level. We know that the inequities that existed before the pandemic were only amplified to the most vulnerable businesses in Pennsylvania, particularly businesses owned by people of color. We know that most of the federal dollars did not reach our hair salons, our bakeries, our mechanic shops, our daycare centers, and our retail businesses. So at the outset of this program, we, the CDFIs, along with the state, pledged that we would reach the businesses that were hardest hit, those that were left out, left behind from other efforts. To be eligible, you had to have sales of less than $1 million or less than 25 employees, and the grants were between $5,000 and $50,000. And we intentionally targeted these funds to reach the smallest and the most vulnerable businesses across the state. And the CDFIs, or community loan funds in your community, we were able to mobilize our networks to hear this. We had an overwhelming response with 50,000 applications and almost $1 billion in requests, or $865 million to be exact. Neil, that was beyond any of our expectations, wasn't it? So today, as has been said by the governor, we funded $96 million in the first round and for 5,000 small businesses. And these are grants, to quote Senator Hughes, not loans, these are grants. And we funded all 67 counties across the Commonwealth. The average grant was $20,000. So again, as was mentioned by Neil, 2/3 of the businesses granted were women. 95% of the grants went to the hardest hit industries like retail, restaurants, hair salons, barbershops, daycare centers, wellness centers, etc. And as was mentioned by the governor, the second round is opened up about a week ago. It was opened up on August the 10th, and it will be open through the end of the month. It'll be open through August the 28th at midnight. So if you haven't applied, please apply. If you already applied in the first round, you don't have to reapply. You will automatically be considered in the next round. And some of the high priorities that's been mentioned, we're focused on low to moderate income communities, low to moderate income household as far as income, and the industries that we talked about, retail, restaurants, and others that have been hit the hardest. And again, I want to personally thank Governor Wolf, Neil Weaver, Secretary Davin, and others, Senators Hughes, Blake, and Senator Costa, for delivering this lifeline to Pennsylvania small business. Thank you, Governor. We appreciate it. Thank you. And now I'm here to introduce, we're here for a reason, and the owners of Magical, and that's Veronica, and also her sister, Adrienne, if I said that right. Thank you. Come on up and tell us the good news. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor Wolf, Community First Fund, the Department of Community and Economic Development, and the Pennsylvania Community Development Financial Institutions for having my sister Adrienne and myself here today to represent our company, Magical Days Learning Center. My name is Veronica Bunty, and I am co-owner of Magical Days Learning Center. In 2017, my sister Adrienne and I decided to take a leap of faith and purchase this center. In the last 3 years, we have learned a tremendous amount about ourselves, about maintaining and growing a business, and most importantly, about being the best role models we can be to our children, our families, and our community. Not only am I a wife, a mom, and a business owner, but I'm also a nurse practitioner at Nephrology Associates of York. 3 years ago, as a new business owner, I never would have predicted this new reality in which we find ourselves today. As a nurse practitioner, I've experienced COVID-19 as a provider, taking care of patients through a pandemic and taking precautions to keep my patients, myself, and my family safe. But as a business owner, I've experienced COVID-19 through the eyes of a worried and unsure co-owner of a business that's meant to provide a safe and fun environment for children. As a medical provider, I'm provided knowledge and skills to treat and protect patients from various diseases. But as a small business owner working in a business in an extremely uncertain and trying time, there are no guidelines or protocols to follow to ensure the business stays afloat and survives. Having the ability to apply for and receive this grant has allowed and will allow our business to continue to do what we do best, provide a safe learning environment for over 100 children here in York County. For this, we want to give a heartfelt thank you to Governor Wolf and Community First Fund for working so hard to provide us with information and guidance to find and be awarded this funding. Now I'll introduce my sister, Adrienne.
Hello, my name is Adrienne Davis, and I am the co-owner of Magical Days Learning Center. I have been an entrepreneur most of my adult life. I started my first business alongside my parents when I was just 17 years old. And since the start of that business, I've had the pleasure of starting 2 successful businesses in the state of Pennsylvania. In addition to being an entrepreneur, I'm also a certified welder and a medical technician. My love for community and wanting the best for the children within that community is the reason why my sister and I bought this daycare. We believe that if we can make an impact on a child's life during the most important developmental years, the possibility for that child is endless. I truly believe that small businesses like ours and the millions of other small businesses in America are the backbone of our society. I'm a mother, a sister, a daughter, and a mentor, and my mission in life is to make sure every child that walks through these doors are loved and are given all the necessary tools they need to do well in school and in life. Traditionally, small businesses, especially minority and female-owned establishments, have been overlooked for business capital and funding. This became very evident in March when businesses across the country began to close their doors at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. We were faced with the realization that when these businesses would be able to safely reopen, we needed to have enough working capital to provide PPE and a safe work environment for our staff and for our children. Obtaining this funding to make this all possible has been an uphill battle that we were not prepared for. Through the help of Community First Fund, Jill Bollinger, who has always had our back from Community First Fund, we were able to secure funding. We recognize how trying and uncertain these times are, but we also recognize how important it is for all of us to take a moment and appreciate what we have been blessed to have. It has been an honor for us to serve our community and create a safe and inviting environment for all the children of York County. COVID-19 may have caught us all off guard, but together we will overcome this hurdle. Together we can continue to make York County an amazing place to live, and together we will succeed. Although COVID almost knocked us out, we had 2 weeks ago we had a flood that came through and wiped us out again. But we are resilient, and that will not stop us. We will start this up again because the kids of York County, they need us. The parents need us. And we also want to let all the parents in York County know that if you're choosing to send your kids to a virtual learning, you can bring your kids to our school and we will help them with their virtual learning so you're still able to work. We're all in this together, and as long as we stick together, we will fight through this pandemic and we will see a better day. Y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you, Governor Wolf, for everything that you've done. Really appreciate it. You're up.
Thank you, Adrian and Veronica. As you all know, up until about 5.5 years ago, I was a business owner. And I know that in just normal times, running a business, being an entrepreneur is really, really tough. And then on top of that, you have the pandemic, then you had a flood. So, I mean, it is not easy. And you're right. One of the challenges we had at the state was making sure money got to the most disadvantaged businesses. And that's where community development financial institutions really played a big role. And just so you know, the Secretary Davin always speaks very highly, says the CDFIs, they keep using the acronym, really stepped up and made a big difference. So, and I'm glad to hear that you felt they made a big difference here. So thank you all of you for what you've done. So there's more coming. So now, happy to open for questions. Any questions? No questions. That's great. This is a first. All right. Well,
No,
thank you.
Governor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Back here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
Oh,
fine,
sorry. Yeah.
How you doing? Michael from CBS 21.
Yes, hi.
Question. The Republican leadership is questioning the data that was used not only for the restaurant and bar closures, but also your recommendation for PIAA and other organized sports not to move forward until
Right.
January. What is your reaction to that? Looking at the numbers that came out on Friday, they were relatively minuscule in a short amount of time for the decisions that was made for the restaurant and bar closures.
Well, first of all, the two different sets of decisions. First of all, the restaurants and bars, we had local information like Allegheny County did some pretty robust tracking of information. Plus, the federal government, actually, these were the guidelines they set down. And if you look at the numbers in Pennsylvania of new cases, seems to have been working. When it comes to PIAA, again, I made a recommendation. That was the local PIAA will do what they want to do, and the school districts will do what they want to do. I'm giving guidance here. But I think it's interesting to note that the Big Ten and the Pac-10, they've all basically said they're not going to do fall sports. They're not going to do it in the fall football especially. So we're all looking at the same thing. I think we've all seen what happened in Major League Baseball with the outbreak that happened with the Marlins after the first series with the Phillies. So I think there's enough out there to say, yeah, that would lead me, again, I'm a parent. Both of my daughters were PIAA athletes at the local Northeastern High School here in York County. And if they were in school today, even in cross country, I'd say, I don't feel comfortable having you participate in sport. Again, what we're trying to do here is make it as clear as possible that our schools can open. That should be our priority for all Pennsylvania. And to do that, we've really got to make sure that we're not in Arizona or a Texas or a Florida or Southern California, that we don't have these outbreaks, that we're doing everything we can to keep people safe. And so I think my recommendation, I'm in pretty good company in making that recommendation on both sides, and so far it have seemed to work.
Just following up with that, did you guys, because the numbers that were taken from the restaurant and bars, the mandate was pushed on July 15th. The contact tracing that was released on Friday said that contact tracing started on July 13th. That only allows for a few short days. Yeah. Did you use Allegheny County as kind of the backdrop for?
Yeah. Here's again, if you look at what the way people in states and countries have responded to the pandemic, if you wait until everything is in, first of all, we don't know enough. This has been an evolving thing, so we're learning as we go. But if you act after things just take off, it's too late. If you wait until we're Texas, Arizona, Florida, Southern California, it's too late. And you really have to scramble because your healthcare system's overwhelmed. You're making decisions you shouldn't have to make. I didn't want Pennsylvania to get to that point. So I took the guidelines from the federal government on restaurants and bars, doing exactly what they suggested that we do. We did have some information from local areas like the health department in Allegheny County where they actually did some tracking. And yeah, we didn't start the statewide until soon before I announced this. So that was a very small part of it. It was really what we saw in Allegheny County, what the federal government was saying. And I think what we all understand is the reality of this virus. It's not guidance that we're fighting here, it's the virus. And when people get together for whatever reason, whether it's in sports or in a bar or in a restaurant, when they come into close contact with each other in large numbers, that becomes a place for that pesky virus to actually take off on us. And I think we all, families, private citizens, voluntarily, whether you have direction or guidance or recommendations, we ought to be doing everything we can to stay safe. Yeah.
The second round of grants, do you expect that number to be higher than the $96 million?
I'm going to let Neil answer that question because I don't have any expectations. We were all surprised by how high the first round was. Are you expecting a higher on the second?
I'll turn over to Dan, but I believe we definitely are. I mean, we were incredibly surprised with that number. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll ask Dan to follow up, but we definitely are. The numbers were staggering, especially in the first 2 or 3 days, over 10,000.
15,000 in the first 3 hours.
In the first 3 hours. So we're definitely expecting a huge increase the next round. Dan, do you want to follow up with anything?
I think you answered well.
Okay.
I think you answered.
Okay. Anything else?
Governor, mail-in balloting has become a pretty hot topic across the country. Pennsylvania is kind of at the center of it. How do you approach this election, guaranteeing people that mail-in balloting is safe, and then that it's a good process to use to keep everyone safe, and then also have a proper election?
Yeah, I think the Department of State is doing a lot, and you look at some of the counties that we had a sort of a dry run of this. It wasn't dry run, it's a real run. C trials in the primary in June, and most counties really did a nice job. We have some areas of work, and the Department of State has been working with the different areas, different counties that tell us they need more help or look like they need more help, and so we'll continue to do that. But again, if you look at the COVID-19 pandemic, the safest way to vote is to vote from home, so that you don't have to go and stand in long lines like they did in Wisconsin or Georgia. That you can vote over that 50-day period. We have the longest period of time to vote in Pennsylvania of any state in the United States. To take your time and do it safely. So obviously the Act 77 was passed in a bipartisan way well before the COVID-19 pandemic hit, but it seems to me that it should have increased and will increase accessibility to the vote, which is what we all ought to be wanting, Republicans and Democrats, in a democracy. But it's especially a safe way to do it amidst this pandemic that we're going through.
I think you'd be shocked to know that the president disagrees with you, maybe in a way. I mean, some of his thoughts on mail-in balloting are out there. How do you react to his thinking?
Well, I mean, I understand he's against it, but yet he and his wife are voting by mail. I also heard his chief of staff yesterday complain about, he sort of changed the subject and said that Pennsylvania is sitting on $3.6 billion. That's not true. The $3.6 billion is the total CARES Act funding that came to Pennsylvania. We have reserved $1 billion, but $2.6 billion of that $3.6 has already been committed, or is already out there. And so we have $1 billion that's sitting there, which I think is a very conservative way to look at this, because we don't know whether the federal government is going to support local, county, state governments in the next round, if there is a next round of CARES Act funding. So I think this is the prudent thing to do so that we can continue to be helpful to businesses and individuals who need support. We're down to $1 billion left. So I don't know how to answer that. I suspect that a number of people are scratching their heads as to exactly what the problem is.
Last question?
Bear with me. This is a Dennis Owens question here for you. There are some concerns that public schools are struggling to get bus to private and Catholic school students this year. Have you heard about these concerns, and what is the administration doing to fix the problem?
I haven't heard about the specific concerns of the private schools, but obviously transportation is a concern across the board for education. How do you practice social distancing and get people into a school bus? I mean, you guys are facing the same problem. So it is a practical problem. We're working with the schools to figure out how we can help. There are a number of different possibilities: more buses, more trips, those kinds of things. But I think it's a real issue. I can't say that we have the final answer yet.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks a lot, everybody. Thank you.